You think the most dangerous predator in the Caribbean is a shark? Wrong. For hundreds of years. What has truly made experienced fishermen detour for kilometers is a terrifying beast that is 60 meters long. What does this mean? The largest cephalopod currently recorded by science. The giant squid is only 13 meters long, but the Lusca is 4 times its size. Even more terrifying, this creature has shark-like jaws and deadly tentacles like a giant crocodile and octopus. A perfect killing machine created by nature. From the Bahamian fishermen in 1779 to professional divers in 2005, countless people claim to have witnessed its saucer-sized suckers and tentacles as thick as an adult's waist. Why do local fishermen prefer to detour for kilometers rather than approach certain cursed waters? Why was even the famous oceanographer Jacques Cousteau seriously warned by the locals? Is his existence a collective hallucination of bathyphobia, or a terrifying truth that has been breeding in the depths of the blue hole for hundreds of years? Today we will dive into this, the mysterious waters that governments around the world are deeply hesitant to discuss, to track the ultimate predator of the Caribbean, the Lusca. The legend of the Lusca didn't originate from a specific first sighting, but rather, like a ghost, it has lurked in the Caribbean waves for hundreds of years. Around the Andros Island of the Bahamas, in the scattered blue hole regions, locals have passed down warnings about this terrifying creature for generations. Imagine, in those days without modern communication devices, when a fishing boat laden with its catch suddenly began to violently rock on the calm sea. When the ship's bow is rapidly pulled down as if by something. How desperate the people on board must be to capture this fleeting mysterious creature. High-quality photographic equipment is essential. If you want to save money, you still have to look at Juan. It's very cost-effective to buy a phone from them right now. This 95% new iPhone 14 Pro is only 3,728 yuan, equivalent to 40% of the new phone's price. Extremely cost-effective. And Juan has more than just phones. iPads and DJI Pox 3. The prices are also very reasonable. Juan is a professional, official platform for used goods. It has a variety of patented quality inspection equipment. Each product undergoes a comprehensive inspection by professional engineers. It also supports a 7-day, no-reason return policy and a 1-year warranty. Go to Juan now and search for the code. You can also receive subsidies from major brands with coupons of up to 1,000 yuan. Take advantage of the platform's promotions. Everyone, go to Juan. Let's update some digital products. Witness accounts describe. The sea surface would suddenly churn with unusual whirlpools, as if some huge creature was turning and breathing underwater. And then, everything was over. The ship disappeared into the bottomless blue hole, leaving only a few floating planks and a deathly silence. The earliest records come from those fishermen and sailors who spent their days with the ocean. In their words, this creature, known as the Lusca or sea monster, is a terrifying chimera, with both a shark's ferocity and an octopus's deadly, coiling tentacles. Even more terrifying, it possesses the terrifying power to easily tear apart ships. What truly sets the Lusca apart from known marine creatures are those repeatedly mentioned abnormal characteristics. Firstly, its appalling size. Legend has it, the Lusca's length ranges from 23 meters to an unbelievable 60 meters. This far exceeds any scientifically recorded cephalopod. What's even more disturbing is its description, which combines the characteristics of two top predators: a shark's mouth for biting, combined with deadly tentacles covered in huge suckers. Some more bizarre accounts even describe it as having multiple heads, or the ability to change color, perfectly blending into the dark cave environment. Although these descriptions sound like a fantasy, in different eras, in the scattered reports of different eyewitnesses, they exhibit a core of consistent characteristics that are noteworthy. With the passage of time, the legend of the Lusca has also evolved. From the initial reverence and worship of this mysterious power by the indigenous people, to the age of exploration, it became a sea monster feared by sailors. Countless terrifying stories of ships being dragged to the bottom of the sea by unseen hands added a heavy stroke to Lusca's fearsome reputation. Into the modern era, the famous explorers Jacques Cousteau and George Benjamin, while exploring the Bahamian Blue Hole, were both solemnly warned by the locals about the existence of the Lusca. In the disturbing legend of the Lusca, what's most impressive are those thrilling encounters passed down through generations. In Andros Island and other parts of the Bahamas, ships near certain blue holes often meet with disaster. The typical description is often like this. On a calm day, the sea surface is as calm as a mirror. Suddenly, a ship at work will abruptly plunge downwards without warning, as if grabbed violently from below by an invisible giant hand. Witnesses would see the ship in an extremely short amount of time, without even having time to send a complete distress signal, before being quickly dragged into the water at the entrance of the dark blue hole. Subsequently, a huge whirlpool would form, churning up unusual waves. Eventually, only some floating ship fragments would remain, and a deathly silence. Local fishermen often express doubts about the official explanation of tidal backflow. We are familiar with every ocean current in this sea area. Never has anyone seen such swiftness, such precision, as if a tide with a certain intention. What's more disturbing? On some salvaged shipwrecks, huge breaches were found that are difficult to explain by mere natural tearing, or marks as if squeezed and wrapped by some great force. Around 2005, an experienced underwater photographer was filming near a remote blue hole near Andros Island. He experienced a life-or-death ordeal. When he dived to a certain depth, a huge dark shadow suddenly approached rapidly from the depths of the cave. He's right. It was a creature whose size far exceeded any octopus he had ever seen. It was estimated that the tentacles could reach an astounding 15 meters in diameter when spread out. Before he could react, A thick tentacle had already wrapped around his underwater camera and tried to drag him into the deeper darkness. Instinctively, he used his camera to fend it off. Struggling desperately, he eventually managed to cut some equipment free. Only then was he able to escape its grasp. He ascended rapidly to escape. Although he survived, his expensive camera was left forever at the bottom of the blue hole. The photographer recalled afterwards that creature's tentacles were cold and slimy. The suckers were huge and powerful. It left clear circular marks on his arm. These marks became a lifelong nightmare for him. Skeptics believe that divers in the low-light environment of deep water are susceptible to nitrogen narcosis, and therefore misinterpret what they see. However, for those who have personally experienced this fear, for the divers, they firmly believe that what they encountered was not a simple hallucination. If it were merely a product of deep-sea phobia. So how do we explain the persistent, patterned, large, circular bruises on the body? Jeremy Wade, the host of River Monsters on Animal Planet. Biologist Jeremy Wade once conducted a special investigation into the Lusca during a night dive near the famous blue holes of Andros Island. Wade and his team experienced a suspenseful moment. They used advanced sonar equipment to detect an unusually large and rapidly moving object signal underwater. Its size far exceeds the common marine life in the area. Meanwhile, the underwater camera carried by the divers also seemed to capture some blurry images of giant tentacles quickly sweeping by. What made the divers even more uneasy was that they personally felt a strong surge of water, as if some huge creature was moving or breathing near them. They even heard dull thumping sounds coming from deep within the cave. For safety reasons, the team urgently ascended. Although this exploration failed to obtain a definitive clear image, the large target on the sonar and the divers' intuitive feelings added a new modern sighting to the existence of the Lusca. Wade himself ultimately tended to believe that the Lusca legend might be more based on exaggerated descriptions of giant octopuses. For example, when an octopus swims quickly, its head shape might be mistaken for a shark's head. It has long been widely believed that the blue holes of the Bahamas are relatively isolated underwater caves. However, recent discoveries have overturned this understanding. These seemingly independent blue holes may actually be connected through a huge and complex underwater cave network. They even extend to open deep-sea areas hundreds of meters deep. Studies by institutions such as the Bahamas Cave Research Foundation have shown that the scale and complexity of these cave systems far exceed initial imagination. This discovery is of extremely important significance. If the Lusca really exists, then this huge underwater labyrinth will provide it with the perfect hiding place and a vast range of activity. It no longer needs to be limited to a single blue hole. Rather, it can be in this huge underground water system that is almost completely unexplored by humans. Move freely. It can even enter the distant deep sea from the blue hole entrances near the shore, through secret passages to forage or hide. This explains why this giant creature can exist for a long time and is difficult to be found. It also explains why his sightings appear sporadically on different islands and near different blue holes. Facing the mystery of the Lusca, modern science hasn't stood idly by. But the exploration itself is full of challenges. The biggest difficulty in exploring blue holes lies in the extremely harsh environment. Some of these vertical caves are hundreds of meters deep. The internal structure is complex, with dim light, or even complete darkness. The water flow conditions are variable, and some areas even contain toxic substances. Conventional marine biological survey methods are almost entirely ineffective in complex cave environments. Researchers can only rely on direct observation through diving, or use remotely operated vehicles for limited exploration. The timing is even more complicated. If the Lusca really exists, it is obviously an extremely cautious creature, able to perfectly avoid human detection. The traditional wisdom of local fishermen provides valuable clues for scientific exploration. They told the researchers that some blue holes would experience unusual changes in water flow at certain times, as if something huge was breathing deep down. However, the biggest frustration during the exploration remains the lack of definitive physical evidence. As people try to clear away the layers of mist surrounding the Lusca, a major explanation has emerged. The unknown giant creature hypothesis suggests that the Lusca is indeed a giant cephalopod that has not yet been officially recognized on Earth. Supporting evidence includes the limitations of ocean exploration, the existence of deep-sea gigantism, and the Bahamas blue holes, special environment providing the possibility for the evolution of large predators. More importantly, eyewitness reports, passed down through generations, with surprisingly consistent core descriptions, repeatedly mentioning the Lusca's huge size and multiple tentacles. Misidentification and exaggeration. The hypothesis suggests that the Lusca may be a misidentification of a known marine creature. The real dangers of the blue hole environment, the effects of nitrogen narcosis that can occur during diving, are enough to cause sensory confusion. A group of ordinary octopuses moving quickly in dim light. Their entangled tentacles could be seen as a huge, whole body. Large marine creatures, in certain angles and lighting. They may also be given terrifying characteristics that do not belong to them. The cultural psychological phenomenon hypothesis regards the Lusca as a product of cultural psychology. Humanity's innate fear of the unknown abyss makes unexplained tragedies easily attributed to some supernatural being. This information, which may have originally stemmed from real events, is constantly reinterpreted and amplified through word of mouth. It ultimately solidifies into legendary creatures with specific images. However, every explanation is questioned. Lusca, this name, which has echoed in the Caribbean Sea for hundreds of years, has long surpassed the question of mere biological existence. It's more like a mirror, reflecting humanity's inherent fear of the deep ocean, and the eternal desire to explore the unknown. Based on current evidence, the truth about the Lusca may lie somewhere between the concentrated explanations. Perhaps there does exist some kind of large cephalopod adapted to the blue hole environment, but its true size and characteristics are exaggerated by legend. Perhaps in those mysterious disappearances and ship accidents, some of them did involve unknown biological factors. The legend of the Lusca thus skillfully walks between the rigorous scientific inference and the heart-stopping warnings of ancient legends. In your heart, which possibility would you prefer to believe? Do you believe in those cold but objective scientific data analyses, or lean towards those full of dramatic and mysterious colors? Ancient narratives? What do you think it's most likely to be? Share your insights with us. Together, dive into this deep-sea exploration of unknown fear and courage. This is the Misleading Channel. See you next time.